Within the classical Islamic worldview, the ability to flawlessly recite scripture is often viewed as the pinnacle of religious achievement, but early scholars identified a severe danger in this assumption. Technical mastery of a sacred text, when decoupled from the ethical boundaries it enforces, weaponizes the text against its own intended purpose. To understand how this paradox was diagnosed, we have to look at a 10th century manual titled Akhlaq Ahlul Quran, written by the scholar Abu Bakr al-Ajurri. Ajurri designed this book as a rigorous diagnostic tool, a taxonomy intended to separate genuine religious authority from performative charlatanism. Ajurri addresses a specific collapse in scholarly integrity: individuals who preserve the linguistic structure of the Quran while abandoning its legal and ethical limits. He grounds his critique in statements from the Prophet Muhammad and the early generations, predicting a time when men would learn the Quran for the sake of the audience rather than the divine. He cites a specific warning from the fourth caliph, Ali bin Abi Talib. Those who carry the Quran will fracture into three classes. One group reads for God, a second reads for worldly gain, and a third reads purely for status. By mapping Al-Ajurri's taxonomy, we can outline a clear metric used by classical scholars to differentiate sincere students from those actively commodifying it. Classical scholarship viewed using the Quran for social capital as a systemic failure of the text's intended function. Al-Ajurri begins by defining his first archetype, the sincere bearer of the text, referred to as the people of God, or Ahlullah. He measures this sincerity not by acoustic beauty or memorization speed, but by the governance of mundane physical actions. In this section, Al-Ajurri requires the scholar to integrate Quranic rules into their most basic physiological functions. Notice the relentless repetition of a single Arabic phrase modifying every action: bi ilm, meaning with knowledge. He eats with knowledge, drinks with knowledge, sleeps with knowledge, and socializes with knowledge. This repetition establishes a strict operational logic. The Quran's textual input must directly dictate the human body's physical output, creating a behavioral matrix. It acts as a systemic governor, regulating when the scholar speaks, remains silent, handles anger, and treats neighbors. True embodiment requires the text to function as the primary operating system for the individual's existence, far beyond the mechanics of recitation. In sharp contrast, Al-Ajurri introduces his second archetype, the performative commodifier, labeled the children of the world. Their primary motive is extraction. They leverage their religious education to siphon social, political, or financial capital directly from the elite. Al-Ajurri provides specific diagnostic markers for this corruption. He writes this individual literally eats the rich through the Quran, weaponizing memorization to demand deference. They readily accommodate wealthy patrons, but if a poor person requests their time, they become entirely dismissive. The social dynamic is transactional. It produces a continuous upward flow of deference to power, paired with a downward flow of disdain toward the vulnerable. This behavior inverts the ethical matrix established for the sincere scholar. The charlatan prioritizes high-profile performances, carefully managing their reputation among the influential solely to maintain their worldly status. In this corrupted state, the scripture functions as a currency traded for socio-political leverage rather than a moral guide. Beyond their social behavior, Al-Ajurri levels a specific technical critique at how these performative scholars actually recite the text. He identifies a paradox where an individual memorizes the phonetic letters of the Quran while abandoning the ethical limits those letters describe. He cites a narration warning of a time when people will read the Quran and straighten its letters as an arrow is straightened. This metaphor describes a hyper-focus on phonetic perfection, yet this recitation does not pass their collarbones. It never reaches the heart. Impeccable structural output on the surface rests on top of a systemic ethical failure underneath. A hyperfixation on the acoustic rules of pronunciation, tajweed, without internal contemplation, tadabbur, is Al-Ajurri's diagnostic marker for the charlatan. His tone turns aggressive against reciters who boast about finishing an entire chapter in a single breath, pointing out that such stunts destroy the capacity to absorb the text's laws. This acoustic acrobatics creates an illusion of religious authority that easily deceives the general public. Prioritizing phonetic perfection while ignoring the moral weight of the words signals a profound spiritual decay, masking a lack of genuine mastery. To resolve this paradox, the text concludes by redefining the very concept of recitation. Al-Ajurri turns to classical Quranic exegesis to explain how the earliest generations measured their own engagement with the book. In the final lines of these excerpts, he cites a Quranic verse praising those who recite it with its true recitation. He provides the commentary from early authorities like Mujahid, who explained that true recitation means they operate by it with its true action. This is a total semantic shift. In this framework, true recitation is identical to physical action. This definition effectively strips the performative commodifier of their assumed authority. If there is no action, no ethical adherence, then by definition there is no recitation taking place. Al-Ajurri's manual proves that 10th century scholars were acutely aware of the dangers of institutionalizing and commodifying religious knowledge. It serves as a diagnostic tool to audit religious leadership, cutting through public performance to examine private ethics. He leaves us with a stark reality. Within the classical Islamic framework, the Quran is never truly read until it is physically lived.